Hello, PTE Academic online masterclass on Retell a lecture. These are my contact details. You can contact me on WhatsApp, watch my YouTube channel, see my blog, and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All this information is also given in the description section below. Let us talk about the test structure first. First part is the introduction, which is not marked. Then the official test begins with part 1, which is speaking and writing for 77 to 93 minutes. This is followed by part 2, that is reading, for 32 to 41 minutes. There's an optional scheduled break for 10 minutes after this. In the end is the listening, part 3, for 45 to 57 minutes. Now the speaking structure. Speaking has 5 item types in it. Read aloud is the first one, which has 6 to 7 questions. Repeat sentence has 10 to 12. Describe image has 6 to 7. Retell a lecture is 3 to 4. And short questions are 10 to 12. Our focus area today is retell a lecture. The skills which are checked in it are speaking and listening, and the marking is done on 3 criteria, that is content, pronunciation, and fluency, which is marked for 5 marks each, total being 15 per retell a lecture. The content is the trickiest of the marking. A candidate will get 5 marks if he is able to explain everything in the lecture, which means the characters, their actions, their relations, the development of the lecture, and the conclusion. If he misses out something and does not talk about the development, character, or the relationships, he would be getting 4. He would get 3 in case most points are discussed and conclusion is given. 2 marks are awarded when there is only one key point which is discussed and there is a conclusion. 1 mark is awarded when the speaker does not talk much about the lecture but is fragmented. And a 0 is when everything is disjointed to the presentation. Marking oral fluency is out of 5. I have developed a separate video for this in this channel. I would request you to watch that video. There are marks out of 5, 5 being native-like, 4 is for advanced, 3 is for good, 2 is for intermediate, 1 is for limited, and 0 is for disfluent. The pronunciation is also marked out of 5. I have made a separate video explaining the pronunciation mechanism of PTE. 5 marks are awarded when the pronunciation is native-like, 4 when it's advanced, 3 for good, 2 for intermediate, 1 for intrusive, and 0 for non-English. Retell lecture tips. The first and the foremost tip is there should be a proper structure in your mind. It is very important for you to know how to open the paragraph and how to conclude it. You should not be spending too much of time in the examination just thinking how to conclude. It will reflect adversely on your spoken response. The fluency will be harmed. It should not happen. The second most important point is do not repeat the same thing again and again. Suppose you do not have any points and you are repeating the same point, you will lose marks. You should have at least 2 to 3 good points and then frame them properly. Deliver your response within the given time frame. You just have 40 seconds to complete your retell lecture. You have to keep an eye on the timer. Make it sure that you conclude your lecture within the given time frame. It is extremely important. Tip 4. Make use of the picture. There is always a picture next to the Retell lecture. If you correlate the picture with the lecture, it becomes easy for you to understand the lecture. In case of an emergency, you can always use the picture to describe the whole lecture. Tip 5. You should be focusing a lot on fluency and pronunciation. Content, I do agree, is one part of it, but fluency and pronunciation combined together make 10 marks, whereas content is just for 5. Sixth point, you should always keep some fillers handy. They work out really well. For example, the lecture gives very insightful information about the topic in question. When you can't think of anything to say, these fillers will become very handy. Let's evaluate a Retell lecture now. I will make you hear one lecture and there is tape script attached to it. There is also a photograph which you can relate to the lecture. This is only for evaluation purposes, and in the real exam, the tape script is never shown. Let's listen to the lecture now.
The shuttle was designed to be a space truck. It's a multi-purpose vehicle. We've done a tremendous number of different things with it. It's the most versatile space vehicle that has ever been built. We've used it to launch satellites. We've used it to repair satellites in orbit and put them back into orbit. We've used it to capture satellites and bring them back to Earth for repair. We've outfitted it with the Space Lab built by our European partners and used it before the era of the space station to do scientific research. We used it as part of our partnership with the Russians, which is still continuing, first as part of the Mir space station, where we actually prolonged the useful life of Mir by several years through logistical supply visits with the shuttle. And now, of course, we're using it to build the new International Space Station, which is a huge international partnership.
Now that we are done with the lecture, we would listen to 3 responses and try to mark them. Now, the first response.
We have learned about the space shuttle, which is designed and created by the United States of America with the partnership of Russian technologies. It is used to repair space shuttles and other space equipments.
This response describes some parts of the entire lecture. It is very disorganized and it's very hesitant. It is discontinuous and is fragmented. But he speaks about simple grammatical structures. His vocabulary is very simple. I would rate him at a B1 level. Let's see the second response. Let us observe the second response.
Some kind of multifunctional space trucks which are used basically for satellites, to launch new satellites, to catch them and prepare them, or to capture them and take them back to the Earth to be repaired. As well, research is carried out in space shuttles, and they are used in a partnership for logistic for the cosmic stations, like the station Mir was, and to build a new station on the orbit.
Now this response is slightly better than the first response, and I would grade it as B2. Major aspects of the lecture are described. Tempo is fine. Vocabulary is okay. Stresses are correctly placed in some of the places. Language use is acceptable. I would not say highly acceptable, but acceptable. The response is for 28 seconds. Overall, it's a B2. Let's look at the third response.
Well, he speaks about the space shuttle, and he starts with its uses, such as it refers to it as a space track. First, you can launch satellites with it, you can repair satellites, you can send them back into orbit and even back to Earth. Before the Mir stage space station was established, they had a lab inside the shuttle. Later on, in collaboration with the Russians, they have prolonged the Mir space station life, and now it's part of the latest space station project.
This response is the best out of these three responses. I would grade it at a C1 level. A lot of aspects have been explained, relationships are described, he's fluent, he has good pronunciation, response demonstrates very good grammar, vocabulary is precise, and the response is for 35 seconds. The next question which everybody asks me, do the templates work? And my answer is yes, they do work. The templates, quite important. Suppose you forget something, you can always put this line there. At the beginning of the lecturer talked about. It gives you a kickstart. After that, the lecturer mentioned that. He suggested that. In addition, he also said that. In conclusion, the lecture gave us a great deal of information about. These small fragments of sentence can really help you out in framing your lecture. For more practice, you can visit my blog. The address is given in the description below. www.ptepractice.com is also a good website to purchase mock tests. Thank you.